Shotgun. Marino throws deep downfield. It is caught by Fryer. Touchdown! Touchdown Dolphins!
With in-depth analysis on the Miami Dolphins.
Courageous call! That's on 4th and 5!
Live from the DolphinsTalk.com studios.
In my opinion, the greatest fans in the NFL, Miami Dolphin fans.
DolphinsTalk.com daily.
All right, Miami!
Good evening, Dolphins fans. How are you today? And thank you for listening to DolphinsTalk.com Daily, the most listened to daily Miami Dolphins podcast on the internet. I am your host, Mike, on this Sunday night, September 30th. And it was a rough day today, folks. No way to put a positive spin on it. The Miami Dolphins got a beatdown like they haven't had in a while. Well, they took a couple beatdowns in 2017, but it's been a while since those games, and Miami Dolphins, they lost obviously 38-7. It was a rough game, and this is the post-game wrap-up show, and I'm just going to give everyone a fair warning up front. If you're expecting, some positivity, hey, we're still 3-1, this ain't the show for you, okay? You're getting warned up front, so don't send me your hate mails and this. This is not going to be a show of, hey, we're still in first place, we're still 3-1. There was a lot of bad things from this game today, a lot of alarming things that worry me for the remaining 12 games of the season. And myself and Tom are going to talk about that here on the post-game wrap-up show. So you've been warned. Don't expect a lot of rah-rah here, and it's going to be okay. Well, the sky is now falling here. There were a lot of red flags today, and even more injuries mounting up for the Miami Dolphins, which I don't know if they're able to overcome here, if these guys are out for an extended period of time. Hopefully they're not. They're just minor injuries. But we'll find out more about that this week. But what I'm going to do now is take a quick break. And when I come back, I'll be joined by Tom Ernest, and we'll do the post-game wrap-up show for this week's game between the New England Patriots and the Miami Dolphins, in which the Patriots won 38-7.
Sinbad Sports is the #1 sports memorabilia company in South Florida and the #1 place to go get your Miami Dolphins memorabilia. Sinbad Sports has the likes of Rashad Jones, Cam Wake, Kiko Alonso, and Frank Gore in for autograph signings within the past year alone. So when in South Florida area, visit Sinbad Sports at 1976 South University Drive, Davie, Florida. Tell them DolphinsTalk.com sent you.
Welcome to the DolphinsTalk.com post-game wrap-up show. I am your host, Tom Ernest. On the other line, I have Mike Oliva. Mike, how you doing tonight?
I've had better days.
I think as fans we all have, and I think this is a game that is kind of a wake-up call, not just to the team but to the fan base as well. This is, we normally get into, how we got to the final score, but we all know how we got there. The Patriots just absolutely dismantled the Dolphins from top to bottom, left and right. There's just nothing of positive substance to really get into in this game for the Dolphins. The first thing that I want to talk about regarding this game today was just the offensive efficiency was gone. For like the second straight week, the Dolphins just do not know how to run the football. And for a lack of a better term, they suck right now running the football. And this is part of the problem with the Miami Dolphins right now. For the last two games against the Raiders and the Patriots, they have stopped running the ball efficiently. Teams have figured out how to get after the Dolphins' offensive line, and they are hitting the running backs in the backfield. Mike, what are your thoughts on the running game?
Essentially, this offensive line was a house of cards, and when Josh Sitton went down, sort of the offensive line, yes, they beat the Raiders, yes, they beat the Jets without Sitton, but it was just a matter of time before it caught up with them. And since Sitton has gone down, essentially, they can't run the ball anymore. The most effective runner since Sitton has gone down has been Ryan Tannehill, which is not good. So the offensive line was a house of cards. The one thing we all said was the offensive line was pretty much the same as last year, except for one change here and a tweak here at center. Well, the change at left guard, he gone. He ain't coming back this year. And the change at center, who knows how long he'll be out for. Hopefully he's back next week, but we don't know. I mean, we don't know. We'll probably find out more by Tuesday. But they're a mess on the offensive line, and it's the same cast of characters we had last year. Mix in a Travis Swanson now. And, the offensive line, this is going to be the problem of the 2018 season moving forward. I know they're still 3-1. You don't want to be sky is falling, sky is falling, sky is falling. But you can also read the handwriting on the wall here. I mean, you don't have to be a genius. The offensive line is the same group as last year, essentially, and they're going to have the same problems they had last year, which is going to be a big problem for the Dolphins, especially if you look at their schedule with Cincinnati and then the Chicago Bears. Good God, the best defense in the league, who'll be coming off a bye week well rested. I don't know how they're going to block anybody. And the running game is going to be a huge issue moving forward.
This game, and I started this off with, this is a rude awakening for the fan base. For 3 weeks on Twitter, I saw a lot of Dolphins fans chirping away, talking smack. Pump the brakes, people. Yes, the sky is not falling, and this is not a sky is not falling wrap-up show. This is we got our asses handed to us post-game show.
But you got to be realistic about things too. Yeah,
we have to be real. We have to be realistic. Right now, the Dolphins are not playing their best football, and it starts with Adam Gase not figuring out what these teams are doing defensively to solve the problem. 2, you have 4 quarterbacks on the roster still.
Makes no sense.
Need to get rid of David Fales, open up a roster spot, fill it with some depth on the offensive or defensive line or in the secondary. You have to at this point. There's no reason why you should be carrying 4 quarterbacks on your roster. They're not going to give much away if another team decides to sign him, David Fales or whoever. Who cares? Focus on your team first and worry about everybody else next. So I would say part of the problem right now, Adam Gase, is just he's stuck in his own way. The adjustments at halftime were absolutely nothing. They didn't adjust on the fly. The first quarter, they were down 3-0, and I was sitting there going, hey, they're down 3-0. They're not playing very well, but the fact that they still held the Patriots to 3 points in the first, it's not bad. But then the game just blew open in the second quarter, and I'm just thinking to myself, as many other fans were, what the hell are they doing? This is not the same team we've watched for 3 weeks. And I tweeted it out earlier in the evening that the Dolphins every single year get their asses kicked in New England, and they get their asses kicked in Baltimore. And thankfully this year the Ravens aren't on the schedule. But we have to go to Cincinnati next week, which right now is an equivalent of going to Baltimore the way the Bengals have been playing football.
Yep, and a large problem here is something I spoke about on the podcast I do every day. Back in August was the Miami Dolphins starting 22 is actually not bad. It's pretty good. And through the first 3 weeks, it showed that they were pretty good, and they were winning games and finding ways to win, blah, blah, blah. But when you get injuries, and right now the Miami Dolphins are loaded with injuries, they have no depth on this roster. And I said that all summer. They have 0 depth on this roster. The starting 22 is good. Behind these guys, they have nothing. The offensive line, Sitton and Kilgore. Something happens either one of them. Now something has happened to both. They're screwed. In the secondary, Torrey McTire's a nice player. You don't want him to start. And who's going to be the third cornerback if he does have to start? Tankersley, who was a third-round pick a year ago, he can't even dress for these games. He's inactive every week. He's that bad at this point. Who's the next cornerback? They are so hurt right now. Tight end, AJ Derby. Hopefully he's back next week. I know a lot of these guys aren't going to be out for the year, but if they're out for a week or 2 or 3, they don't have the bodies to survive. And this was a game where, yes, it was 3-0 after the first quarter. You're thinking, okay, we've seen this before. They're still in it. Once the second quarter hit, the Patriots just exposed the lack of depth on the Dolphins pretty much everywhere on the field. And they were they were sunk, the Dolphins. And if we go into next week with no Rashad Jones, no Devontae Parker, no Chase Allen, no A.J. Derby, it's going to be the same song and dance next week. I hate to tell people that Cincinnati's going to roll over us like a bus over an ice cream cone. It's just that's the reality of it.
And it's a sucky reality, but this is what we have to deal with. And when we look at this objectively, and you look over everything that went down in this game today, Ryan Tannehill stunk. He stunk up the joint. And Adam Gase, one of the things that makes Ryan Tannehill successful is when you get him outside the pocket. True or not true?
Very true. But where
is it? The offensive line is bad. Why is Tannehill sitting in the pocket? Where's the bootleg? Where is the running game? Where is anything that can, symbolize that this team actually has an offense? And the Patriots and Bill Belichick, they do a great job in Foxborough every single year. They expose the Dolphins early in the year. And then when the Dolphins play the Patriots at home for somehow, some way, the Dolphins always find a way to win down in Florida because Brady can't play in the heat. It's a head scratcher. Real quick, Mike, I want to get into it with the three things that were the keys to victory, and I want to get your thoughts on it. The keys to victory in this game I had was position battle. I had that the Dolphins have a dangerous weapon in punter Matt Hawk. He has helped the Dolphins in field position all three games, which he did, and pinning the Patriots deep and getting good field position, which is they had the second best starting field position in the league coming in this game. That will help Ryan Tannehill with a shorter field and work with and engineer scoring drives more frequently. Did that happen today?
Not at all. He had the worst game of his life, I think, Matt Hawk.
He did. How about the second one? Avoid penalties. The Dolphins have been fairly good when it comes to penalties up until last week's 9 penalties. Brady will be looking for flags after he's hit frequently, and the Dolphins have to be smart to not get bad penalties, roughing the passer, defensive holds, or pass interference. The NFL will hate the Dolphins at 4-0 and the Patriots at 1-3. Keep the sheet clean of penalties, and because that's going to help the pass. Guess what happened?
Hey, you said 9 penalties last week. Hold my beer. We got 10 this week. Even if some of them were crappy calls, okay, take away a couple that were bad calls. You're still around 7 or 8 too many.
You can take 17 points off the board because the Patriots scored 17 points off the board on 3 very questionable calls. The score is still 21 to nothing, other than another garbage touchdown.
Yeah.
The third is group effort to stop Gronk. The blueprint is there. The Dolphins have the talent and the tools to stop Gronk. Jaguars used a variety of players at linebacker and defensive back to shut him down. The Lions took the same approach and held him in check. The Dolphins are going to have likely Rashad Jones. They lie to us again. Strong safety, which will put Minkah Fitzpatrick in the slot corner position. Wrong. Expect the Dolphins to use a ton of Jerome Baker, Minkah Fitzpatrick, Rashad Jones, T.J. McDonald, and others to keep Gronk at bay. Stop him and force the poor wide receivers to beat you. What did Gronk do in this game today? Well, let's make it simple for everybody. He had 4 catches for 44 yards. Would you say he was contained?
Yeah, I guess.
So James
not
White
awful
went off.
It's not awful.
So James White, 8 for 68. He was the guy I talked about.
We all saw that coming a mile away.
Yeah. Philip Dorsett torched the Dolphins secondary. And Cordero Patterson, if it wasn't for his 55-yard pick play, he would have 2 catches for 1 yard in this game. So, all in all, the Dolphins played fairly well against the wide receivers, but they got torched on the ground. They gave up 175 yards to one of the worst running teams in the league. I can't figure out how you cannot run against back-to-back weeks, 31st ranked run defenses, and you can't stop one of the worst run teams in the NFL through 3 weeks. I'm at a loss for words, Mike. You got to take over for a minute.
Well, no Andre Branch and no William Hayes is the reason they were able to run the ball. So I sort of saw that part of it coming. James White ran for 44 yards today all by himself. He probably hasn't run for that many yards the past 2 years alone. But I sort of saw that coming because with no Hayes and no Andre Branch, I knew Charles Harris, he wasn't going to be able to stop the run. He's a one-dimensional player. He's just a pass rusher. And James Woodard, he's never played in a real game before in his life. So I didn't expect much stopping the run. So that part doesn't shock me. I'm more concerned about that we can't run the ball at all. I mean, at all. And I can't even pin this on the running backs too much. It starts up front, and the offensive line is a mess. We are, once again, for the God knows how many year in a row now, we have nothing at guard, center, guard. We have absolutely nothing. Tunsil and James, they have their flaws, but, they're good enough at the end of the day. Good enough, and you can't complain about them. Guard, center, guard, couple injuries, and we are just royally screwed with guys like Travis Swanson. Jesse Davis he's nothing special when it all comes down to it at the end of the day. You got Ted Larson, who honestly probably should now be playing center if Kilgore's out for an extended period of time. And behind them, there's even less. It's just going to be ugly the next few weeks unless Kilgore can play. Larson can't run block to save his life. The running game is non-existent because we don't have the offensive line to run the ball. Pass blocking-wise, they're actually not that bad. But run blocking, they're not. We had one guy in Josh Sitton. We put all our eggs in a 32-year-old guy who was breaking down, and, he lasted one game. Which, it happens, guys get hurt, but we should have done more. We should have done more, and we didn't. It leads back to the offseason. And looking at the reason this team has no depth, you look at the recent drafts. Devontae Parker, first-round pick, got nothing. Charles Harris. It's still early, and I still like Harris a little. But, this is now 1 month into year 2. You hope to get a little more out of him than what we're seeing. We get virtually nothing out of Charles Harris. Tankersley, we get nothing. Picks in rounds 1, 2, and 3, you need those guys to contribute something. Something. They don't need all to be superstars, but they have to contribute something. We take guys, for the most part, we have our hits, of course, but for the most part, we take guys who contribute nothing. They contribute nothing at all. They have no value to this team. Tankersley, where he was last year this time to where he is this year this time, it's like night and day. He has regressed so far. He has gotten beaten out by guys who were undrafted, and it's sad. It's really sad for him. Then you can talk about Devontae Parker, which I didn't want to talk about anymore because I'm just so sick and tired of talking about him. I just can't wait for the next 12 games to be done so I don't have to talk about him ever again, and he's gone on someone else's team. This guy's never healthy, and you can make the excuse, not his fault. Not his fault. Yeah, it is his fault. On some level, you got to protect your body. And this guy cannot protect his body at all, and he's always injured. He's doing something wrong. That's all I know. He's doing something wrong. And whether it's strains or pulls or this, it's always something with him. And someone like Charles Harris, who, he seems like a great guy, but, make a play. Would you make a play at some point? Make a play on the field. The guy's been here for a year and 4 games. Make a play. Make an impact play. Make more than one impact play. You made a couple last year. Make more than one. But it's like we get nothing out of guys we draft, and that's why this team has no depth, and that's why when we get, a bunch of injuries like this, McCain, Kilgore, Chase Allen, Derby, Parker, it's tough. It's just tough to survive that amount of even small injuries. Even if the guy's out just for a week or two, it's tough because our depth stinks because we draft badly. And that's just, that's a big picture approach. This week, the Miami Dolphins weren't going to go undefeated. We know that. Look, if I told any fan of the Miami Dolphins, you're going to be 3-1 after the first 4 games with the one loss being at New England, you would have said, sign me up. That sounds great. And honestly, that's still the case. Sign me up. That sounds great. But as we sit here today after the one loss at New England, you look at the injuries, you look at how they lost. I heard some people today, some fans, just really are stupid. I heard one, he goes, lose by 1, lose by 100, it's the same. No, it's not. Yes, it's a loss at the end of the day, but if they lost by 1, you would have said, damn, this team's 3-1 and they almost won at New England. They hung in there tight. They fought their tails off. It's not the same. All losses aren't the same. We got our what's handed to us, and the same issues we've seen for the past God knows how many years are the same issues we saw today. No offensive line, can't cover running back out of the backfield. The quarterback was, it's not all his fault, and you can say this without like ripping Tannehill. This doesn't make me a Tannehill hater. He sucked today. He just had a bad day. It's not the end of the world. I'm not saying release him. I'm not saying trade him, but you can be honest about it and say he sucked today, like a lot of people did. But he sucked too. So it's the same problem we've seen for like 15 years now. All just in one game. Just in one game, we saw every problem we've ever seen, and you throw all the injuries on top of that. And, so don't say lose by one, lose by – you sound like a fool when you say something like that, and you don't know what you're talking about. So it just – it is what it is. But on to Cincinnati.
Yeah, really, on to Cincinnati. Let me you mentioned the offensive line. You mentioned the depth at offensive line. What if I were to tell you that there's a guy out there who's 26 years old, and he is currently a free agent, and he's not doing much right now. And I know he hasn't had a great NFL career, but if you're looking for a guy to add on the offensive line as depth, the name Luke Jokel is still out there.
Can't be any worse than what we got.
It can't be worse than what we got. He's 26. It's a non-guaranteed contract. You bring him in, throw him in the fire, and see if he can be any better. Because what if you strike the match while it's hot? You know what I mean?
Yep.
What if this kid comes in and plays very well? You can still sign him on the cheap for like a 2-year deal and keep him on the offensive line. I say, what the hell? Get rid of David Fales. Get rid of Travis Swanson, please. Travis Swanson shouldn't have been allowed on the flight leaving Boston, Massachusetts to come home to Miami. He should have been left where he was.
Here's how bad their front office is. And look, I'm not going to – look, we all like the draft they had this past year, the Miami Dolphins. And even the 2016 draft wasn't awful. But here's how bad Miami's front office is. They have tried to sign Travis Swanson for 3 years. Why? What have they seen in him that nobody else that everyone else has missed? Well, clearly they haven't missed, but we did. They have been trying to sign him literally for 3 years. If you Google Travis Swanson, Miami Dolphins, you will get stories from 2015, 2016, and 2016, 17, and now 2018 of them trying to sign him. Well, they finally signed him this year, and they were able to put him in the lineup, and this is what you got. He was once again, it's not even his fault. It's just unprepared. They knew the offensive line was an issue last year, and they did, tweak the center. Okay. And they spent some money on a left guard for once. Okay. But, he's a 32-year-old left guard with injury history. They needed to do more. Who's the backup left tackle, right tackle? Sam Young. Sam Young stinks. Let's just be nice. Sam Young stinks. I know at the end of last year he played well. He stinks. Period. They didn't do enough. And now the offensive line issue is blown up in their face. Hopefully it's a minor issue for Kilgore. If it's minor, the offensive line's still not going to be great, but at least it's passable. If Kilgore's out, 2 to 4 weeks or more, good Lord, this team's in trouble. Especially with the schedule they got, this team's in trouble. That's the big one. Bobby McCain, again, hopefully it's minor, hopefully. But if they got to play 1 week without Bobby McCain, who the hell's your cornerbacks? They have no cornerbacks. They have Xavier Howard, and that's it. That's it. The depth on this team is brutal. And look, even today, if they did have great depth, they probably lose anyways. Okay, I get it. It's at New England. You can't flip out when they lose at New England. There's no shame in that. But it's how the team lost and how the team is built. And the team was built with no depth, and now with all these little injuries, it's like, I don't know. It's going to be tough to rebound. So yes, we're 3-1. Yes, we're in first place. But 3 weeks from now, who cares? Because that might not be the case.
I said last week on our post-game wrap-up show, the way that the schedule is looking, New England, Cincinnati, Bears, and Lions. If the Dolphins since they were 3-0, if they could find a way to still be 2-2 after these next 4 games, they're still 5-2. That's not bad. That's not almost through halfway through the season. But they got to win 2 out of the next 3.
Yeah.
They have to win 2 out of the next 3. You cannot fall apart when you start 3-0. So the Dolphins have to find a way to rebound against the Bengals next week. And then we're traveling to Miami to cover the Bears game. Bears scare me now.
And they're coming off a bye week.
Today.
And they're coming off a bye week. As are the Lions. They're coming off a bye week when we play them. Each one of those teams are going to be well rested.
The Dolphins have to find a way to win next week. Period. End of story. There's no other way to sugarcoat it. The Bengals are going to be home. They're coming off a huge emotional win. And for some reason, the Falcons still can't close football games. But the Bengals are playing really good football. And if I am Ryan Tannehill, this is a game where you want to walk out, play a really great football game, win the game in Cincinnati, and then walk up to Bill Lazor and give him the middle finger.
Yeah, well.
That is the motivation should be for Ryan Tannehill. Other than winning, it should be the middle finger to Bill Lazor, because he joined Joe Philbin's staff, and just like Philbin, didn't want to coach the kid up. So that's how I see this game next week. This has to be a big game from Ryan Tannehill, because Andy Dalton, AJ Green, they're going to get back Joe Mixon. They've got a good core of players on offense, and they're pretty good on defense. It's going to be a tough game, and they got to figure it out. They got to figure out what the hell went wrong today and move forward. So I guess we should talk about who in the hell gets a game ball for the Miami Dolphins today.
Jason Sanders. You didn't screw up.
There you go.
True.
I'm going to give it to Minkah Fitzpatrick. I think for the second straight week playing at strong safety, he had 10 tackles. And, man, did he put a hit on Cordero Patterson on a potential screen pass that went incomplete. Holy crap, did he hit him. And, he had 2 passes defended. He had a good game. I think we are starting to really see glimpses of him and his versatility with Rashad out. This kid is going to be an absolute stud in this league, and hopefully for this team for a long time until the Dolphins screw up his contract talks in the next 3 years. I'm just preparing for it already, folks. They screw it up all the time. So we talked about it briefly. We're going to Cincinnati next week. What are your thoughts? What do they need to do to win this game next week?
First off, they need Bobby McCain healthy. If he's not, they're done before the game even starts. Because Cincinnati, even though they lost their tight end today, they are loaded at wide receiver with AJ Green, with Taj Boyd, and with John Brown. I mean, they're just loaded at wide receiver, and Miami cannot roll. I mean, Xavier Howard can only cover one guy. I mean, he can't cover 3. And if Bobby McCain is out, this game's over before it starts. I just hate to say it. It's just the truth. So that's the first thing. Bobby McCain, and if he's out there less than 100%, then it's like he's not out there at all, honestly. So that's going to be the key right there is, can they cover these guys? Cincinnati's running game, Joe Mixon, I think he'll be back. Either way, whatever. I don't even know if he played today for them, but let me see here. Did he even play for them today, Joe Mixon? I really wasn't paying attention. No, he was out. But either way, though, we can slow down the running game. I'm not too worried about that. It pretty much comes down to, can we cover anybody on defense? That's number 1. Number 2 on offense, it's going to be, who can we block? Can we block anybody? Because those are the problems right now. Cornerback, offensive line, everything else, you can live without AJ Derby for a week or 2. Chase Allen, it is Chase Allen at the end of the day. Once again, a week or 2 without him, not the end of the world. But if we can't block anybody up front, I don't care who the quarterback is. I don't care who the wide receivers are. Your offense is shot. And we've spoken about this for years. And we're back in now at September 30th as we record this. We're back in the same boat that we've always been in. Is our offensive line really, a mess? And it's always a mess because we don't fix it the right way. So those are the 2
Never
keys.
do.
Block somebody, cover somebody. We don't have the players right now to do that. Rashad Jones, I heard today from Armando Salguero, if this was a playoff game, he would have played. Well, next week's not a playoff game, but it's a pretty damn big game. So I hope he's out there. That'll help some, but we really do need Bobby McCain because we have no cornerbacks. Offensive line, we'll probably find out Monday or Tuesday what's going on with Kilgore. Again, Kilgore's not exactly Dwight Stevenson, but he's the best we got, so we kind of need him. So there's
Can we
that.
force Dwight Stevenson to play?
Yes, honestly.
Is there any chance?
Hey, we saw him last year. He was in damn good shape. He probably could.
Absolutely.
We should go over these stats. I know there's really not much to talk about this game, but these stats really should be talked about. First downs, Miami had 11, Patriots 26. We only got 1 first down rushing. They had 10 rushing. And out of those, 11 first downs we got, 2 of them were by penalty, so we really only earned 9. Third down, they're 10 of 15. 10 of 15 on third down. We were 3 of 11. Once again, last week we only ran, I think, 39 offensive plays or 40, something like that. This week we only ran 45 offensive plays. That's the issue. The offense isn't getting first downs. Now, we won against the Raiders because of the big play. So when you get one big play, a 50, 60 yards touchdown, 70-yard touchdown, okay, you're going to run fewer plays, but you're going to live with that because you're scoring touchdowns on the chunk yardage plays. This week, with no chunk yardage plays, you only run 45 offensive plays. That leads to a grand total of 172 yards, which a big chunk of that was in garbage time. Yards per play. New England, 6 yards per play. That's about average. Good. Miami, 3.8. That's bad. Passing yards. Miami, 116. New England, 274. Tom Brady today, he really wasn't great. I mean, he didn't do anything special today, Brady. 23 of 35. I mean, that's okay. It's nothing special. 2 interceptions. He just, they ran the ball down our throat. He threw little passes to James White, and every now and then he threw a long one that got caught. I mean, he did nothing special today. New England, they won today big, and everybody's going to see, the Patriots are back. But guess what? They're really not, because this week they'll play Indianapolis on Thursday. They'll win that one. After that, they got Kansas City. Kansas City's going to mop the floor with them, and everybody's going to be like, what's wrong with the Patriots again? New England still isn't fixed. They just caught the Miami Dolphins at home when Miami had some injuries and at the right time, essentially. What else here? Rushing yards, Miami 56. I'm actually surprised they got that much. New England 175. Penalties, they had 6. We had 10. The stat sheet in this case does tell the story. They just, pushed us around, and Miami did virtually nothing, and they took it.
Yeah, they did. And, the big stat to me that really stood out that you mentioned is, the total plays.
We got to get first downs. And
it's not like the Dolphins were playing fast today either.
No, God, no.
Where did the hurry up offense go? Sometimes I just don't get it. They go 3-0, they find ways to win games, and then they go up to Foxborough and they become, I can't even find the right words. They just shell up in New England, and they get smacked again in New England. Eventually, this has to stop for Miami to eventually potentially take this division over, but this isn't over yet. The Dolphins sitting at 3-1.
No, I mean, they're still 3-1. Yeah,
they're 3-1. It's not done yet, and it's not like the rest of the NFL. Especially in the AFC, it's not like this is people are just running away with this.
No, a lot of bad teams.
You got Pittsburgh struggling against Baltimore. You've got Houston and Indianapolis both 1-3. You got the Chargers, thankfully, at 2-2, and they struggle against C.J. Beathard.
How the Tennessee Titans are 3-1 are beyond me. How the Tennessee Titans are 3-1?
Listen,
Mike Vrabel, God bless him. I mean, really, God bless him.
I can't stress this enough. I don't give a damn what anybody says about who the Dolphins have played, because they're 3-1. Well, they got their butts kicked by the Patriots. The Dolphins are back to normal. Well, guess what? If you're going to really talk about the Dolphins' schedule, let's talk about the Rams' schedule and who they've played to get to 4-0. Because it's, you can't just put that on one team and say, well, they're 3-1 because they played the Raiders who are 1-3, blah, blah, blah. It has to go for everybody else.
Yeah.
And who they played. The Dolphins don't make their schedule. The Rams don't make their schedule. The schedule is made by the National Football League. The opponents are determined by last year's finish. and then your out-of-conference game based on division. So I don't want to hear people talk about the Miami Dolphins record being 3-1 being a fluke. They beat the teams that were put in front of them, and the Titans team right now is playing damn good football. And they just beat the Super Bowl champions in overtime at home. Oh, by the way, coming back to win that game too. And they went for it on fourth down to win that game.
And they also beat the Jags too.
And they beat Jacksonville, who slacked the Patriots 2 weeks ago.
Yep.
So the Dolphins being 3-1 is not that bad, folks. It is a loss. It stings. It sucks. But the Dolphins are still 3-1.
3-1.
They're tied with 4 other teams prior to Kansas City playing tomorrow night. They're tied with 4 other teams at 3-1 in the conference. The Dolphins are 3-1 in the conference, which is pretty damn good.
But the only thing you have to watch out for is just watch the injury report. The injury report will tell you if next Sunday is going to be just like this past Sunday was. Because, once again, if there's no Bobby McCain, there's no Kilgore, there's no Chase Allen, there's no AJ Derby, there's no chance Miami can win. Again, those guys aren't superstar players by any means, but we don't have the depth to overcome that. So the sky isn't falling. Nobody's saying it is. Nobody's saying, trade Ryan Tannehill. He still stinks. He stinks. I told you. Nobody's saying that, but you have to be realistic about it. They don't have the depth to withstand this many injuries. When it was just Josh Sitton, you can go, okay, he's a guard. We can find a way to mask that. Then it became William Hayes. Okay, it's William Hayes. You can maybe find, then it's Andre Branch, then it's Rashad Jones, then it's Devontae Parker, then it's AJ Derby, then it's Chase Allen, now it's Bobby McCain, now it's Daniel Kill. They don't have enough quality bodies, and they need a majority of these guys back. If you go back and listen to last week's post-game wrap-up show, we spoke about William Hayes, Andre Branch, and Rashad Jones. I said for Miami to win in New England, they need 2 of those 3 guys to play. We didn't know Hayes was out for the year at the time when we recorded. I go, they need 2 of those 3 guys to play to have a chance. Well, they went 0 for 3. And now we're going into a week with even more guys where we don't know about. And, the majority of them have to play for this team to have a chance to win. Because Torrey McTyer, he was good in camp and he was nice preseason, nice player. He's not a guy you want on the field for an entire game. He's just not. Linebacker, if Chase Allen's ain't out there, we have 0 depth. 0 depth. I know they signed the kid this week for the Redskins. He was still a free agent in late September for a reason, folks. You can't depend on him. Stephon Anthony stinks. You ain't going to depend on him. So there's nothing there. Offensive line, we've gone through it already. I mean, they just don't have the players. So the only thing this upcoming week you really have to watch for is the injury report and who's going to play and who's not. Because if a lot of these guys aren't going to play this week, they're not going to beat Cincinnati. In fact, it'll be 38-7 or worse. It will be. Because, again, Tom Brady really wasn't great. But he was, efficient, which is all he needed to be. Just turn and hand the ball off, get 5-6 yards of carry, throw a little small pass here, James White, little small pass here, James White. Oh, I got somebody running deep. Let me throw it deep. I mean, he didn't do nothing special today. 23 of 35, 2 interceptions. He did nothing special. But, when you're playing a team that has no depth, I mean, it's easy to play.
Yep. It's gonna be an interesting week, and the fact is, the Bobby McCain injury, all of us looked at it and said, great acting job by Bobby McCain, but
Karma came back.
I don't know for a fact how much he truly is hurt. I mean, maybe the Dolphins saw this as an opportunity to say, all right, we don't want to get scrutinized by the league or fined by the league for this or that. Maybe they just kept him out. Who knows? We're going to find out this week. But hopefully he is okay. Rashad Jones, 2 straight weeks he's practicing. This week particularly, he was 2 full practices on Thursday and Friday. And the fact they sat him out is telling me they didn't see a need to have him today, which is mind-boggling. But they definitely need him against the Bengals next week. Having Rashad back and having Bobby McCain, Mika Fitzpatrick back in the slot
helps.
Makes this defense 10 times better than it's been the last 2 weeks.
It's a secondary passable. Even without McCain, it gives them a puncher's chance at least. Yep. Tankersley's look, if Bobby McCain's out, you're going to have to dress Tankersley. I mean, you're just going to have to dress him, and he's going to have to play. So, I mean, unless they got something else up their sleeve, which I have no idea what it would be, because you can't play Walt Aikens at corner. That's even worse than playing Tankersley, honestly. And you're not going to play the 6th-round pick Armstrong at corner. He's only on the active roster to run down the field on punts and kickoffs. So, Tankersley might have to actually dress and play next week, which at this point, let's throw him into a real game. Let's throw him into a real game and see what the hell happens. It can't be any worse. And then on the other side, the offensive line. The offensive line, I don't know. I don't know what they're going to do. Hopefully, Kilgore's okay, and they just roll with the same unit they have been rolling with. It's not great, but it's the best we got, and there ain't nothing going to change between now and the end of the year. So that's the 5 guys you want out there. And we also got to talk about the head coach here. A little bit of this is on him, or maybe a lot of it's on him. Who knows? Play calling. You can pick on the play calling till the cows come home. There's that aspect of it. The other aspect of it is, I don't even know. I mean, look, hopefully this is one of those games you can just sort of take the film, throw it in the trash because you're not going to learn nothing from it and move on. We'll see. We'll see next week. But, they better be ready to play next week. They better be ready to play. Look, if they lose in Cincinnati 28-27, yes, it sucks they lose. But at least you show some guts, you show some fight and something. Show me something. But if they go out there next week and get drilled again, then I don't care that they're 3-1 or that they'll be 3-2. I mean, you got to show something here. It's a long season, folks. You can't get excited about your record, mid-September because it means very little. So hopefully next week they show some guts. Even if they lose, I can live with that. But fight, show some fight, make it competitive, do something.
Yep. And I'll end this with, if you could figure out a way to win in Cincinnati next week and get to 4-1, 3 out of the next 4 games are at home: Chicago, Detroit, and the Jets. 3 out of the next 4 at home. If you're sitting at 4-1 and you look at those 3 games, you go, shit, we could be 7-2 if you can find a way to win. But the Dolphins have to get healthy. It starts this week. They got to get ready for Cincinnati. It is a huge game next week. You could essentially say that their season is a little bit hanging in the balance with a loss against the Bengals, because if you lose poorly like you did today against the Patriots,
that's bad.
It's going to get ugly. The Bears are a very good football team. The Lions are iffy, but they can definitely score. They got great skill players. And then you got the Texans on Thursday Night Football in Houston. We know Deshaun Watson can play. We know he can play, and they're gonna, and their defense is stout.
Well, here's the problem. Here's part of the problem too. Today, when Kilgore was out there, we couldn't block the Patriots, who have a bad defensive line. Last week against the Raiders, we couldn't run the ball, who have a bad defensive line. How the hell are we going to block the Chicago Bears? I mean, it's just that game has the potential to be ugly. I mean, really, there's no way we're going to block their defense. I mean, I don't know how it's going to happen. Hopefully it's like 110 degrees and they just melt in the heat or something. I don't know. I hope it's not 110 though, because I'm going to be down there. But I mean, it's going to be that's the only way it's going to slow them down on defense. But yeah, that's why I say, when people say a loss is a loss, lose by 1, lose by 100, well, you're a fool. If they, if they lose to Cincinnati, it's not the end of the world. Because at least you show some fight, you show some guts, you're in the game. Okay, we lost, it stinks. Cincinnati's a quality team. There's no shame in losing on the road to a quality team, as long as you put up a fight and you're in the game, through all 4 quarters. If you go to Cincinnati and roll over and play dead and lose, 38-3 or 35-10, then that does say something. It says, maybe the first 3 games were a fluke. I'm not saying there are. I'm just saying another poor performance backed up by this one would say that, though, that, maybe the first few games were a fluke. And, and let me tell you something else, folks, this week. If the national media rips us, don't complain. They will be over the top with it. Same old Dolphins, same old Dolphins. That's fine. But don't complain about the national media ripping the Dolphins this week. This ain't the week for it. Let them have it because they, when you lose 38-7 or, you deserve to get ripped like this. Sorry, you do. I mean, so I don't want to hear national media's against us. No, they're not against us. They're pointing out the obvious. Okay, they're pointing out the obvious. But hopefully this week they can get some guys healthy. Light some candles, say some rosaries, hope for some people to get healthy, and maybe by next Sunday they have more of their first string out there, and they have the guys who they want out there playing. Because if it's like this with 4 or 5 key guys out, it ain't gonna be pretty.
Say your Hail Marys, eat your vitamins, say your prayers, as Hulk Hogan used to say in the 80s.
If you don't believe in God, start.
That's the way we have to really take this next week. And hopefully Adam Gase has these guys ready to go for the game against the Bengals. It's going to be a big game. They have to find a way to get it done because now you're not in a position to start taking losses frequently.
No.
You have to win games because, let's face it. There's 12 games left in the season. You have to be better than 500 to make the playoffs.
Yep.
And these last 12 games, you have to go 7-5.
Yep. And I know a lot of you out there right now are going, oh, my God, this show is so negative. You guys are so negative. But listen to us. The sky isn't falling. It's not. But you have to be realistic about this stuff. And what we saw today is very alarming. So the sky's not falling, but it's very alarming. There's a lot of red flags out there
eye-opening.
That weren't
it's
very
an eye-opening
good.
Night.
Like I said, that's why the people say lose by 1, lose by 100. No. You lose by 1, okay, you know what? We're close. We're not there yet, maybe, but we're really close. You lose like this, it's like, damn, we got no depth. We still got the same issues we always have. We got a long way to go. Yes, we're 3-1. I get it, but that and 25 cents won't get you much in life. I mean, it's a long season, so the sky's now falling. I know the show's been overly negative, but there's nothing positive to talk about today. I'm sorry if there was. I tried with Jason Sanders. I gave him 5 seconds. There's nothing positive to talk about today, so it has to be overly negative. There's going to be shows like this. Hopefully this is the last one, and I'm not trying to say that the season's over. Nobody's saying that, so don't overreact. But, you got that. It was bad today, folks. It was as bad as it's get. Last year we had the Panthers and Ravens game. This game is right up there with it, and hopefully it's the only one this year because I don't like coming on here for almost an hour talking about this crap. Talking about like this. I want to talk about wins, fun plays, exciting plays, stuff to look forward to. But there's none of that to talk about today.
Absolutely. And hopefully this is the last time we have to talk about a loss. Maybe they'll go on a 12-game winning streak in the season. Yeah. But hey,
a loss like this. Yeah.
It's this is the way football works. You're gonna have your ups, you're gonna have your downs. We're here to tell you the good, we're here to tell you the bad. We're not gonna make we're not going to try to appeal to everybody in regards of trying to make everybody happy and say, oh, it's okay, it's okay. No, it's not okay. Today was not okay for this team. Like you said, you go in there, you put up a fight, and you lose to New England. Okay, I can live with that.
Yeah.
But when you go in and get absolutely dismantled, I'm not okay with that.
And also,
that's not the way it's supposed to go.
And also, don't send me a screenshot of the standings. I know we're still in first place. It's 3-1. But being in first place on September 30th, really, there's no trophies for that, folks. Okay? So you don't have to say, oh, we're 3-1, still in first place. Send me a screenshot of that. I had a few people say doing that. It's like, I get it. We're in first place. Who cares? It's September 30th. Nobody cares. So it's like
send us a screenshot
late December.
In the middle of December.
Yeah, exactly. Send me that screenshot because that's the one I care about. But again, sorry if this show's been overly negative, but we gotta call it like we see it. We gotta be honest, and we'll be more positive. Look, I got a bunch of great shows coming up this week with a bunch of great guests that you're gonna love. So we're not gonna talk a lot about this Patriots game probably after the show because this week I got at least 2 guests lined up, possibly 3. No, I do have 3 lined up for sure, actually. And it's gonna be fun stuff to talk about, and it won't be a lot about the Patriots. It's gonna be some other stuff with people tied in with the Dolphins in some other areas. I can't really talk about it now. But there will be shows all week, and I know it's a tough loss, but we'll be fine. They just got to get healthy. If I'm Adam Gase, I'd give Miami, a couple days off this week. They don't need to be out there on the practice field. Look, they know how to play football. What they need right now is rest. And this is, we always complain about the bye week. Oh, I hate when we get a bye week in week 4. I hate when we get a bye week in week 5. If there was ever a year that they needed a bye week in week 4 or 5, this was the year. But unfortunately, that's not going to be the case.
It is not the case, unfortunately, for the Dolphins. But we will move forward to Cincinnati, as Bill Belichick likes to say. But that'll wrap up the show tonight. Thank you for listening. Again, we apologize for the constant negativity, but if there was anything positive to talk about, we really would have dove into it. There's just nothing positive from top to bottom from this game today. But Mike will be on with the shows this week. I'll be on with the pregame show next Sunday, and we look forward to a great week of Dolphins talk. No pun. Actually, yeah, there is a lot of pun there.
There's a lot of pun there.
But hopefully everyone has a great night and a great day on Monday, and we'll talk to you again in a little while.
Thank you for listening to the DolphinsTalk.com podcast. Be sure to visit DolphinsTalk.com every day for all of your latest Miami Dolphins news.